And it's really amazing how when domestic violence incidents happen and they come on TV and you hear people talking, and the young lady that was here this morning, I wish she had come back because I wanted her to hear this. When you hear stuff that people are saying, you're like, that is so wrong. That is so wrong. They're so wrong about domestic violence. And with domestic violence, what people don't understand, that is not a relationship about anger. And people think that it is. Anger management, people will call me and say, hey, I need an anger management class. My probation officer sent me to these classes. And I said, well, I always ask, how many weeks did you get? And they'll say, well, I got 24. And I said, oh, okay. So you have family violence. You don't have anger management. Anger management is a 12-week class. Family violence is a 24-week class. So you're going to be with me, and our program it's FVIP, which stands for Family Violence Intervention Program. Now in Michigan, you guys call it BIP, Batterer Intervention Prevention Programs, okay? And I think in Michigan, you guys do anywhere from 26 to 52 weeks. So you can get a year in Michigan if it's mandated. These are mandated folks. Very rarely do I get volunteers. Okay, very rarely, but I will get them because they will call and say, hey, my wife says she's gonna leave me if I don't sign up for this class. I'm like, all right, man, well, come on in. And what happens in these programs is court mandated, and they are required to attend 24 weeks. They can only have 3 absences, and if they get 4, they have to start all over again and pay their fees all over again. I just had a young lady, maybe about 3 weeks ago, came in. It was her last class, and I would think if it's your last class, you would be the first one there. And she came in probably about 35 minutes late with her grandfather. She was all out of absences. Had to start her over. Yeah, it's serious. It's very serious. And so there's fees that they have to pay, and they pay out of pocket. The state is not paying for them. They have to come out of pocket. And so you hear a lot of stories. You hear a lot of, I don't have it like that. I get cursed out on the phone. And I'm like, I didn't know you until you called me, and man, let me tell you my story. Not if you're not paying me. If you pay me, I'll listen, but I'm not gonna listen over the phone. So what happens is they'll come in and they have to go through orientation, and there's a state fee. The state fee is $20. They have to pay $20 every person by the 10th of the month. Every new person I get, I have to pay $20, give $20 to the state. It's kind of like a mob thing. I got to pay up to the mob. And then there's a victim liaison. Now what the victim liaison does is the victim liaison is the individual that the victim can use as a resource while the perpetrator is in class. So in other words, if you have to come to class, the victim, and you still stay together, because some people do, you stay together, or even if you're not, and you're constantly calling, harassing, then they will call me and let me know, and then I address it in class, but not to that individual. Anybody know why? Right, because you could take it back to her, so I address it globally. So I had a doctor one time who was harassing his daughter when he went to pick her up for visits. And he would, your mom got a boyfriend, what's your mom doing? And the girl will always cry. And so his wife called the victim liaison. The victim liaison called me. And so I addressed it in class. And I actually let everybody know that that is child abuse, okay? It's actual child abuse. And so therefore, he can get in more trouble for that. Temporary protective orders, I think y'all call them, what do y'all call them up here? Oh, PPO, okay, right, personal protective order. Okay, so a restraining order and a TPO are actually 2 different things, okay? So with a restraining order, okay, let's say I'm married to someone in this church, and they go down and they take out a temporary protective order or a PPO. What that does is is that protects me, that person from me. So what is it, 200 yards? So just imagine like 2 football fields. That's how far you have to stay away. If I walk into church and she's here, I have to leave. Walk in the grocery store, she's there, I have to leave, okay? But if I'm there first, then I'm okay. She would have to, she can choose to stay or go. In Georgia, it's they call it a 12-month protective order. So it's for a whole year. Now, it can be modified, amended, because what happens is when these incidences happen, people they respond of their emotion mind. Okay, an emotion mind is where your thoughts and behaviors are primarily driven by your current emotional state. So you go down there, you're mad, and you take out this protective order that either this restraining order or temporary protective order that you either already know about, somebody in your family knows about, or the cops encourage you to take out. So when you take them out, you're putting everybody on there. I want them to stay away from me, the kids, my grandmother, the neighbor dog, everybody. Everybody's on there. Well, what happens is that what you fail to realize is he's the chief breadwinner. So now how do you contact him when the kids need food, when they need formula? So you make a phone call. And the phone call kind of goes like this. Hello? What you doing? What you mean what I'm doing? Why you calling me? You know you're not supposed to be calling me. You put them folk on me. Well, your kids need some food over here. Well, you should have thought about that before you call and put them people on me. We ain't supposed to be talking right now. Yeah, but what you gonna do about your kids? You still gotta. And this is a lot of times why these temporary protective orders don't work, because you go to court and you mad and you want to, make it stick. But then you're like, I really need this individual, and there's other services, but people don't tie into those services. What they'll do is they'll call back the perpetrator. Now, here's the deal. If I have a temporary protective order on me and I get caught back with that individual, what do you think would happen? I can go to jail. Anybody know how long? 10 years. 10 years. It's called felony stalking. 10 years. So I actually had a guy in class, came in, was very angry. Most of them are. And as he went through class, he started to warm up and started to, hey, you know what, Dr. Parks, you really helped me. I enjoyed this class and da-da-da-da. Okay. So then weeks later, I get a call, and it's him. And he's calling me, and he's like, hey, Dr. Parks, didn't I finish your class? I'm like, yeah, you did. What's the issue? Well, man, I was coming from South Carolina. I got pulled over. Me and my wife got pulled over from the police, and they got me in jail. I was like, wait. I said, you was with your wife? Yeah, man. They pulled me and my wife over. I said, don't you have a temporary protective order? And he said, yeah, but I finished your class. The order and my class have nothing to do with each other. That's a 12-month order. And when they pulled him over, they said, ma'am, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. That's my husband. They didn't want to hear it, put him in jail. I called my connections in the court. I said, listen, you remember so-and-so? Oh, yeah, he used to come down here and give us a hard time. At that point, I just put my head down because I'm like, this may not work. So listen, he's in South Carolina in jail. What'd he do? Beat his wife again? I said, no, actually, they kind of made up and were coming through South Carolina. And it was like, well, Dr. Parks, the judge wrote that order. That's felony stalking. I said, listen, 10 years. I said, I don't know what he did, but I just want to let you know he did do the class. He did what he was supposed to do. Now, I am not a flying monkey. Now, people are like, what's a flying monkey? You ever watch the Wizard of Oz? Okay. So what did the flying monkeys do? They did the bidding of who? They did the bidding of the wicked witch. Okay? And so what flying monkeys do is generally those are, in domestic violence situations, those are moms. well, girl, you know, he get angry so much. And, you know, when he was a little boy, he just always used to be angry. His dad wasn't around and, you know, but he really loved you and he want to get back. Mom's a flying monkey because she's trying to bring them back together and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. Anybody who's doing the bidding of, your president has flying monkeys. I'm serious. He has flying monkeys because you have people in the community who are being racist and saying racist things based on, you see what I'm saying? And sometimes the flying monkeys go out and they do things that nobody's telling them to do. Now, Donald Trump is not going out and saying, hey, go out here and do this. They're taking it upon themselves to do it because it seems okay that he's co-signing for it. Doesn't necessarily have to come out of your mouth, okay? But that's what's going on, okay? So that's what a flying monkey is, okay? Now, I don't know what happened in that case. I don't know if he got locked up or not, but I tell you, if he did, he's still in there because that wasn't, 10 years. So you can get 10 years. You can get 10 years for that if they decide to stick it to you. Oh, yes. No, and I'm going to tell you why. As a young lady said this morning, she didn't even know that she was in an abusive relationship. Okay? Batterers, I don't like using that term. That's why I call them perpetrators. They will bring you in and everything's nice. Here's a cycle of abuse. There's a honeymoon phase, okay? So everybody's good. Oh, baby, I love you. You're the best thing since sliced bread. Girl, I'll drink your bath water, whatever. Then as the relationship goes on, you move from the honeymoon phase to the tension building. Man, every time I come in here, why my dinner can't be ready? I told you when I come in, I want to have so-and-so. Then it moves to the actual abuse where you're going hands-on. Then after that, what happens? We're back to the honeymoon. Baby, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch you. I didn't mean to put my hands on you. You know I love you. I love hard. To what? Tension building, actual abuse, honeymoon, and that's the cycle, and that's the cycle she was in. And she didn't know it because it came across as love. She said it this morning, I thought he was looking out for me. And she didn't listen to her mom because it's like, kids, we don't listen to, that's my kids. I'm like, you know what? I think my mom has something to do with this. Because she would always say, wait till you get your own. I want to call up, Mom, can you lift the curse, please? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just, my kids don't listen at all. Anyway, so, that's pretty much how it works. And the way it goes, let's say, there's two ways you can end up in my class. You can come to the class by you guys getting into it and then someone calling the police. So someone calls the police come out. And when the police come out, they're generally taking the aggressor. Now, generally when they come out, the aggressor tends to be who? The male. He's also what? Bigger and the whole nine. And so they're like, all right, come on, guys. Man, I didn't do nothing. She beat me up. And you hear that all the time. The only way a woman gets to the class is if the cops come out and the man is leaking. So he's bloody or something like that. Okay, ma'am, let's go. Now, a lot of guys end up in class because they don't know how to keep their mouth shut. And I'm not saying that, keep your mouth shut so you don't go to class. They will call the cops. Cops come out. And what's going on? Man, I called y'all. Y'all need to get her up out of here. Okay, what's going on? So the woman's over there. And what happens is they sometimes they send out a male and a female officer. Okay, and so they'll take the victim or they'll take the woman, and they're talking to her off in the corner, and the guy is actually hurt. The problem is he can't keep his mouth shut. Why y'all talking to her? I called y'all. Y'all need to, man, get up out of my house. So guess what? Whatever she's saying now sounds what? Yeah, you're validating it. You're making it true. And so the issue is, he's been beat with, rolling pin, whatever. I had a woman that had to come to my class because she was in an abusive relationship, and her son actually tied the boyfriend up and beat him with wire hangers. That's how she ended up there. But she was an actual victim. But at that time, that's how a lot of women end up. They can't take it anymore, and they decide to do something. And the moment they decide to do something, that's when they end up in class. They end up arrested. And so you have to be careful with women because it can become a support group, And it's like, hey, you have 24 weeks just like everybody else. I can't be, we hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You committed a violent act. And so domestic violence is a crime against the state. This is why you can't get rid of it. So let's say, I have to go to court for domestic violence. And I say, forget it, I'm not going. I don't care what they tell me. I'm not going. So I stop going to court, whatever. There may be a warrant out for my arrest, but it stays on your record until you complete it. So let's say I don't go and I try to get a job. They pull my background. I try to get a student loan. I try to get an apartment. I try to get a house. I try to get a flight. They're going to pull your background. And I had a guy who was in my class who him and his wife used to always go as a couple with some other couples to Cancun. And they went this year. Everything was fine. When he came back, he got pulled into customs. And they said, listen, we know that you're not supposed to be with your wife. So you got two choices. You can go back with her in handcuffs or you can take the next flight. He chose the next flight and then got caught in a hurricane somewhere that was going on down there. So, yeah, and it's my classes stay full. I'm in 4 different counties. This is not the only work I do. I'm also a licensed clinical psychotherapist, and I do mental status exams for the court. I also do mental status exams for folks who are having bariatric surgery. So I'm connected with a doctor down there, and people come in and they get those mental status exams, and I'm very busy. That would explain all of this white hair here, that and my kids. So let's go ahead and get started. I just tried to give you an overview of what I do. Here's another thing. So I have everybody in my class. The major, depends on what county you're in. If I'm in Fulton County, which is Atlanta, the majority of my people are going to be African American. If I'm in Decatur, which is DeKalb County, the majority is going to be African American. But in Gwinnett County, I'm going to have everybody. So I'm going to have Asian, I'm going to have black and white and Egyptian, and everybody is there. So it's a melting pot in Gwinnett. But all the black guys are like, Dr. Parks, why only black guys come to this class? I'm like, well, apparently black guys are the only one getting in trouble in Fulton County. I'm like, I don't know, but go to my other counties and you'll see a difference. Who do you think is the worst group, the worst ethnic group out there when it comes to domestic violence? Most violent. White. I think that's racist. No. So your worst is your Asians. Because when they come in, we get the police report. We get the police report, and I'm reading this like, whoa, you did what? Man. They are the most violent. Now, the group that is mainly in there for actually just fighting, not really domestic violence, but infidelity. What group do you think that is? African American. African American. Because remember what I said, domestic violence is a relationship about power and control. Somebody's trying to gain the power and control over someone else in the relationship. Anger management is about regulating your emotions. Okay? So when you look at this power and control paradigm, what you have is my whites, my Asians, my Africans, my Jamaicans, all of those people are coming from a culture where the man is the patriarch. You see what I'm saying? And so when they come to America and try to mix that, not having it. No. I've been watching Oprah and they got 911. And so, I'm telling you, the guys in my class literally hate Oprah and Lifetime Network. They're killing men on the Lifetime Network. Okay? And so that's, actually that's what's going on. So you get this guy, I had this one guy one time, he was an African guy, and he was like, Dr. Parks, my wife's thinking is above the trees. And I'm like, okay, so her thinking is, out there, I guess, and he was just like, I don't get it. What is this 911 in your country? I said, well, man, this is how he said, if you were to call 911, if you were to call the police in my country, they would come out and they would say, beat us some more for wasting our time. Exactly what he said. Because in their country, hey, guess what? It used to be that way here. It used to be that way here. So what they're coming with is the old mindset that, hey, the woman is supposed to do X, Y, and Z, the man does this, and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you this one real quick. This other African guy was like, Dr. Parks, I don't understand. This is when the economy went bad. When the economy went bad, my classes were full to capacity. I mean, it was like, I was doing like 14 classes per week because people were fighting over lack of resources. And so, this one guy said, Dr. Parks, when I had a job, I would come home, my wife would have supper for me, she would sit down and watch me eat, the babies would be in the bed, and after she eat, she would wash the dishes and we would sit down and watch a movie together. Now she's telling me since I lose my job, I am no longer the man. And I said, okay, I get that, I understand that. I'm like, maybe you should go back to Africa. I don't know, but it's not gonna work here, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through this and help you guys identify, where people are in a relationship that they think is love. I did this actually in Birmingham a couple of weeks ago, and room full of women. It was like, wow, I didn't even know that stuff was abusive. I just thought that's what happens, because people always think, hey, couples get into it, they get into it. But when you start going hands-on, and see, you can come out, the cops can come out, and let's say I'm upset and I punch a hole in the wall. Now, I didn't put my hands on anybody. Cops come out, what do you think gonna happen? I'm going to jail. Know why? Okay, that's intimidation. What do you think I'm gonna be charged with? Criminal trespass. Criminal trespass. Now, I heard someone in the audience say, why is that? Because when you think of trespass, you think of what? I'm in Mr. Johnson's yard. How can I trespass my own? Okay, so here's the deal. Let's say I buy a computer, and every day I come home, my wife is on the computer, and my supper is not ready. So I just go in the closet, take the Louisville Slugger, bow, tear it up. Now, she was in school. She no longer has a computer. The kids can't do homework, can't look at recipes, all of that. It's no longer my property, it's community property. So it's community property, and some jurisdictions say, it depends on, like it could be $300 or more, $500 or more, and some of them don't care. You could also get hit with cruelty to children if your children are in the house when you guys fight. Now, what does that mean? Cruelty to children doesn't mean you did anything to the kids, it just means they were there. Sometimes the kids are there in their sleep, and you get that charge, cruelty to children. You also get interrupting a 911 call, which is a felony. You could also have simple battery, family, domestic violence, all of that. There's a lot of times they try to, and kidnapping, okay? How many people remember What's Love Got to Do with It? Tina Turner? Okay, remember Ike took her from outside the pool and drug her down the hall? Took her in the room and beat her? That's kidnapping, okay? Now, I know you guys are used to somebody tying you up with duct tape and throwing you in the trunk and driving you across state lines. No. If I move someone from one spot to the other against their will, that's kidnapping. I could be fighting in the kitchen and drag her to the dining room, which is next door. That's kidnapping. It could be outside. I could pull her back in. That's kidnapping. I'm moving her against her will. Look at that. Everybody like, what? I better stop grabbing folks. You didn't know, right? So, and a lot of people don't know these classes exist. They don't know they exist. And I've had friends who've called me in Atlanta when they got in trouble. So tell me what's gonna happen, Parks. And I said, well, this is what it's gonna be. Sure enough, it goes down like that. So, yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's look at now, you have the top 10 states for domestic violence, okay? Where do you guys think Michigan falls? What? Michigan is not even in there. Yeah. Michigan is not in the top 10. I don't know where they fall, but maybe there's some underreporting going on out there, whatever the case may be. Yeah, but in Michigan, these are 2014 records, new ones haven't come out. And a single day in 2014, Michigan domestic violence programs provided services to 2,492 victims or survivors. In 2009, 103,331 incidents of domestic violence were reported to Michigan police. Many others went unreported. Over half of domestic violence homicides in Michigan are committed with guns. An estimated 18.2% of Michigan women will experience stalking in their lifetimes. So for young ladies out there, when you give out your phone number to this new guy and he's constantly texting you, oh girl, he calling me all the time, he really loved me. He texts me all the time wondering where I am, wanting to see my phone, what I'm doing. He's setting it up. He's setting you up for failure. So you got to recognize and you have to understand that. Georgia did not used to be in the top 10. We are number 8. We are number 8. Would you guys like to know? Texas is 10. Tennessee is 9. I mentioned Georgia's 8. South Dakota is 7. New Mexico is 6. South Carolina is 5. Oklahoma is 4. Nevada is 3. Louisiana is 2. And who do you think number 1 is? Nope. You'll never guess. Alaska. Everybody's like, is that a state? Yeah. Anybody know why? I can't hear you. Oh, hold on, yo. Make me think I got schizophrenia, all these voices. You said what now? You're all wrong. The states I mentioned have very lax gun laws. There's a lot of hunting in Alaska. Okay? Lax gun laws. South Dakota, lax gun laws. Although men only murdered 11 women in Alaska during 2014, the population of the state is low. This gives it a high rate of domestic violence per capita according to Guns and Ammo. It is the third best state for gun ownership. Access and use of firearms in the state is easy and regulation is limited. So where you have very lax gun laws, those tend to be the states with the higher rates of domestic violence. Yeah, Texas has always been in there. Okay, so, I'm sorry? It's easy to get a gun. You don't have to do a background check in some of these states, okay? So let me give you, in a lot of these domestic violence situations, someone's being shot. They're being killed. So let me see here. In 2014, men murdered 200 women in Texas. Coincidentally, the state has some of the most lax gun laws. If you want a gun for private use in Texas, you don't even need a background check. You can go into a store and purchase any amount of guns without a background check. You also don't need to have a state license. With no checks or limits on your purchase, you can get some serious firepower. So without there being more stricter gun laws, when you get into it, the first thing people do is go to what? Grab a gun. Women grab knives. I don't know why women always grab knives. I don't know what that is. It's the first thing you need to do, I got a lot of guys that come in and they're all cut up and everything, and I'm like, why a knife? I guess they meant it. A guy actually showed me a video of his woman sitting there with a knife, and she was doing all kind of cursing. He was like, see what I got to deal with? I'm like, but what are you doing? What are you doing that's making her grab this knife like that, man? You need to get out of that situation. When he started crying and everything, and, I had prayer with him, and he was like, thank you, Dr. Boss, thank you. Next week, he was doing the same thing. So I was like, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. Did that answer your question, Sister Simmons? You don't know? I'm just so baffled by all of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, all right? Defining abuse and battering, okay? So most of my clients have difficulty with this, as most people do, okay? So it's important that we define what abuse is and what battery is, okay? Now, does anybody have an idea of what abuse is and what battering is? Nobody's answering now, huh? Okay, battery is physical, and abuse is what? Okay. All right, I'm gonna open some eyes this evening. Okay, but before we do that, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Okay, you're not right, but you're not wrong. All right, so domestic violence, okay? Let's go ahead and, can you guys see that? No? Then I'll go ahead and I'll read it for you, okay? Domestic violence is defined as a pattern of behavior, okay, in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control. Remember we talked about that. I'll be talking about that tomorrow morning, power and control. Before I go further, anybody know what the best example of a power and control relationship is? Donald Trump? Yep, but it goes back before Donald Trump. Slavery. Slavery is the best example of a power and control relationship, okay? Because guess what? I get to tell you what, when to eat, when to sleep, when to work, how long to work, when to dance, when to have sex with me, whatever. And guess what? At the end of the day, I can kill you and ain't nobody gonna do nothing about it. So is prostitution. Yeah. You're out here on the street at night, those women can leave. But because of the power and control, they stay. Slaves, same thing. There were no fences keeping them in. The fence was built where? Up here. Free to roam if you want to, but when we catch you, it ain't gonna be good. It's power and control, okay? So it's used to maintain power and control over an intimate partner. Abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threats of actions that influence another person. This includes any behaviors that frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, blame, injure, or wound someone. There's a lot of words in that. Domestic violence can happen to anyone of any race, age, sexual orientation, economic class, immigration status, religion, or gender. Religion is very key here. Very key when you start talking about that. A lot of times religion is used to keep women in their place. I have a lot of friends that will call me, and after they talk to me, they say, well, I'm going to see the pastor. And this is not any pastor in particular, so don't go looking up my pastor. I'm not talking about him. And they will tell me, I'm going to see the pastor, and I will say, about? I said, because you know that's not what he does. I don't have anything against a pastor. Pastor can help you. That pastor can help you with your spiritual walk. But with this domestic violence thing, a lot of times, you do have good pastors. I'm not saying that you don't. But a lot of times this is out of their scope. So if it is, that means if you're giving advice, a lot of times you are practicing outside of your documentable competencies. Which means what? You can't document that you know about this. And what happens is they end up doing worse. And I've had friends say, I'm going to talk to the pastor. I say, well, good luck with that. Come back. How did it go? You're more angry coming out than you went in. He said he's going to pray for us. Did you tell him your husband was putting his hands on you? Yeah. Next woman. He told me I need to be more submissive. He was 30 minutes late. He came in and him and my husband talked about sports for 30 minutes. He just came in and said, we're going to start all over. We're going to wipe the slate clean. Now, every last one of those instances I told you, that was a different woman each time. It wasn't the same woman. And I said, I told you that was going to happen. That's not what he knows. And here's the thing. I'm in the church and no one will use me. I'm in the church. I have a white colleague. He's at the Adventist hospital. And he said to me, man, you should be cleaning up at your church. I said, why you say that? Man, it's like, I get most of y'all people, all them people come to see me. I know you seeing some of them. Not a one. And what they don't realize is I'm bound by confidentiality, so I'm not talking about anything. My wife doesn't even know when something happens. If somebody tells me something, or somebody breaks up in the church, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're getting a divorce. And she said, you knew, didn't you? I don't say anything. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Or something was going on. I'm bound by confidentiality. But they go over there to the other guy, and I was like, I get nobody. Have I had church members in my classes? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had church members in my class. And I'm up on praise team some weeks, and I'm looking at them like, or they look at it like, they're Dr. Parks. I'm like, yeah, I see you. But I don't say anything. I keep it professional. Okay? All right, let's move on. Now, let's make sure I'm doing this right. Defining abuse. Okay, here we go. For those folks who blurted out what they thought abuse was. Okay? Good working definition of abuse is any attitude or behavior that usually results in harming someone. Okay, remember that. Any attitude or behavior, okay, that usually results in harming someone. Okay? It could be physical, sexual, verbal, or emotional. Abuse rarely occurs in one form and appears in several. Okay? And if you want to ask questions and stop me, you can. Hopefully, if you guys can see some of that up there. So here's some examples of physical abuse. Okay? Now, physical abuse is the most recognized. Why? All right, you can see it. Okay? There's actual contact between two people, and there are noticeable injuries, bruises, marks, scratches, and broken bones. It is destructive physically and emotionally to the victim of the attack. In most cases, when reported, this form of abuse has legal consequences. Some examples of physical abuse by contact are choking. Okay? So choking shouldn't actually be up there because there is no such thing as, I don't know. Leah, can I choke you? Not in here. I mean, no, because choking is accidental. This got moved to strangulation. That's purposeful. See what I'm saying? I can't choke you, but you can choke on a, grape or something like that. So 2015, they moved to make strangulation a felony in Georgia. So you get caught doing that, you're looking at 10 years. And a lot of guys were facing that. And I was like, you didn't get 10 years? It's like, no, they was gonna give it to me, but I had to get an attorney. So you can strangle, but you cannot choke. Also too, if you guys break up and you go back to the house to get your things and you get caught in the house, they treat that as what? Home invasion. Home invasion is 10 years. Just letting you know if y'all planning on going back in the house. Go back with a sheriff, okay? Go back with a sheriff. I had a guy who, his girl came to the job, and because he was listening in class and didn't say a whole lot, what I said to him actually helped him. And he was on his job, and he just came, his girl came to his job and wanted to see him, and she knew the people on the job, and they went and got him and said, man, your girl, she mad about something. I don't know what's going on, but she want to see you out front. And he went out front, and she just asked him flat out, so is you gay or what? On his job, in front of everybody. Needless to say, his boss was like, man, who are you messing around with? What's up with, your girl or whatever? You need to get your stuff. You need to get out my house or whatever. And so boss let him leave. So he was going back to the house with the female, but then he took a detour, called the police. Police met him there. When he got there, she had torn up everything and was getting ready to blame it on him. Getting ready to blame it on him. And he called me and was like, Dr. Parks, you saved my life. I said, what did I do this week? And he was like, he told me what happened. And he was like, man, if I hadn't had the sheriff there, she was setting me up. And so she was like, you need to tell him to get this. She was telling the guy, he said, ma'am, I can't make him get anything. He got about 10 minutes to get what he needs. So he was trying to give her the key back, and she wouldn't take. Don't worry about it. My ex-boyfriend coming over here, he changing the locks. She was still seeing the X. Still seeing the X. All right, so let's look at this. Choking, strangulation, pulling hair, restraining. Okay? Restraining. So you're preventing someone from leaving, holding them down. I have a lot of clients tell me, man, I didn't put my hands on her. And I'm like, you didn't? What happened? Man, she was hitting me, so I had to restrain her. So you put your hands on her. No, man, I ain't touch her. So run that by me again. Look, man, I came in, she was mad, she started hitting me, I grabbed her by the wrist, and I held her down on the sofa. Oh, so you put your hands on her. Dr. Parks, I ain't touch her, man, that's what I'm telling you. I said, okay, so demonstrate to me what happened. I said, I'm her. Put your hands with, he put his hands on my wrist. I said, are you touching me? Yeah. I said, that's it, man, you touching. You put your hands on her. And he didn't get that. Because in a lot of guys' minds, they feel that if I smack you, that's touching you. But if I'm restraining you, I'm not. Okay? Grabbing. Okay? Grabbing someone, punching, of course, slapping, kicking. I hate to be stereotypical, but those are my Asian folks. Yeah. They do a lot of kicking. Yeah. Yeah, they do a lot of kicking. A lot of times it happens while they're in the bed. And I'm like, how are you doing this in the bed, man? Yeah, kicking them out the bed, the whole nine. I had one Asian dude that made his girl have 2 abortions, made her eat her food off the floor like she was a dog. And he used to smack her around. And they were moving back to Taiwan or something, and she had set it all up. And when he refused to move back, she went down and filed at the police department. And then she left the country. So she really set him up, I mean, it was a good thing, but because he didn't go back, she's like, that's it. She went down to the police department, filed everything, and he was like, most guys, I don't know why I'm here. You hear that all the time. I think some people hide out here in the audience. Yeah. I see people grabbing like this and doing like this. I'm in a turtleneck. All right, so you get kicking, you get pushing, and you got spanking. Now, what some of you guys know, it was like, back in the day, it was legal to spank your wife. It was actually legal to beat your wife, okay? In Virginia, you still can beat your wife. It just has to be on the courthouse steps. I do not promote that. Don't tell your wife, hey, let's vacation to Virginia. Because you will probably still get in trouble. Anybody ever use this? Hey, the rule of thumb says. Anybody ever heard rule of thumb? Okay, so the actual use of that is you could beat your wife with a stick that was no bigger than the circumference of your thumb. That was the rule of thumb. Yeah. They even had publications back in the day of men spanking their wives and how to do it properly. Magazines. I didn't come up in that time, but Okay. And it's funny because when we go over this in class, the guys are like, well, Dr. Parks, you talking about slapping and spanking, pulling hair. What's wrong with that, man? I'm like, you taking it out of context, man. You taking it out of context. Now, what you do in your own home in that area, but, And then you hear things like this. Some women like to be hit. I get that all the time. Some women like to be hit. So, any women out there that like to be hit, raise your hand. Now, look at that. Amazing. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes to be hit. Check this out. If beatings and things like that worked, we would probably still be slaves. Let it marinate for a minute. If it worked. Because all you need is that one time. Beatings don't necessarily work. I know sometimes, you go hands-on with the kids, but how many of you have more than one beating as a kid growing up? You have more than one, right? They don't necessarily work. Because if they did, it would take that one, you'd be like, that's it, I'm done, I ain't doing nothing else. So you got to do some other things. But that's part of my parenting seminar. All right, so let's move on, okay? Any questions so far? Sure. These are the domestic violence laws. So if you are male or female and you break the law, you are subject to it.
I have a feeling it's more for men than women.
You have a feeling that it's more?
Yeah.
Tell me about your feeling. Yeah, okay, so yeah, you're absolutely right. Georgia didn't get their laws until 93, okay? What happened in 92? OJ. OJ happened in 92. See, a lot of people don't make that connection. Laws got very stronger after the OJ trial. Guys come in, they hate Oprah, OJ, and Lifetime Channel, okay? Texas didn't get theirs till, I think, 2003. Now, notice Texas is on the list too, right? Right. We like our guns and we like beating folk. And that's what you get. And it's hard to pass these laws. Georgia had to really fight to get 24 weeks. Georgia has the least amount of time for these classes than any other state. The southern states, they're like, look, man, this is what we do down here. And so they finally got them. We're actually trying to get more. I honestly think it should be about 32. California does a straight 52. It's a whole year. Ask Chris Brown, he'll tell you. Like I said, Michigan, 26 to 52, Texas, 18. But if you do 18, you have to do a 2-hour class. These classes are an hour and a half. But Texas generally does 26. South Carolina does 26, but you have to actually do like a homework assignment for the court. Boston, you're going to do 4. You're going to do 40 at 2-hour classes for 40 weeks. New York is going to do 26, but you can't miss 2 classes consecutively, or you have to start over. You can miss 3, but you can't miss 2 consecutively. Because I've had folks from the Bronx call me, and they'll Google me and see, the type of program I'm doing. I use DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy, and they really like that. And so they'll send people to me from the Bronx. So I get people from, Texas, Michigan, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, all over coming to the class. Some people try to abscond, and get away. But I had 2 guys in my class that tried to leave California and do the classes in Georgia. And I said, okay, you only did 22, 24 weeks. They want you to do a full year. I said, you may want to check with probation before you. They didn't, went back, got thrown in jail because they didn't finish. All right, so let's look at some other forms. Although physical abuse can be readily recognized, it can be found in other forms like intimidation. Now, intimidation is physical abuse without having to touch another person. Often perpetrators will use their physical size to intimidate victims. Okay? So let's look at some other forms. I know you guys can't see that, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. Blocking. Okay? When you blocking someone's path, won't allow them to leave. Flexing. You go around flexing your fist, muscles, clenching, making people jump. Getting in someone's face. Okay? And then taking objects away from someone, like the phone, like the credit card, like the car keys, throwing them in the bushes or keeping them, things like that, okay? Those are other forms of physical abuse, all right? Now, using objects. The use of objects can also be used to abuse someone physically, like punching a wall. Remember I mentioned that earlier, okay? It is intimidating and causes fear to the victim. Now, I had a guy one time, actually a woman in my class, and her husband punched a hole in the wall. And when he did that, he drew a circle around it. Then he drew one eye and then a sad mouth. But the hole was the other eye, and he told his wife not to fix it. And that was because it was what? Intimidating. So every time she got out of line and she walked past that, she remembered, ooh, that could be me. Okay? That could be me. It's a true story. Okay? Using objects. All right, let's see how objects are used. Okay? Breaking. Oh, I can't see this myself. Breaking objects. Okay, we got a lot of broken phones. Okay, destroying someone else's property. Okay, I know of someone who the wife went out and used the credit card, and instead of just taking the stuff back, the husband tore up all of the clothes. All of the clothes. Just to teach her a lesson. I'm like, you got to pay for that, right? Just take it back. But again, it's that power and control. Okay? Driving dangerously while someone else is in the car. Every time I see that, I think of who? Remember Mahogany? He wanted her to pose and she wasn't in the mood, and he was driving dangerously with her in the car. I get a lot of people in my classes that this happens to, and it's mostly Spanish people. I don't know why, but it's mainly Spanish people. And they're fighting in the car. And the girl, is driving. She'll run into a telephone pole. Guys are getting hit while they're driving, got a trucker behind and he's calling in the cops, while they're on the highway. You're in the car. If you cheating, I don't know why you got your phone mounted. So when it pops up, you're going to see it. And, you're getting smacked while you're driving. Just all kind of crazy stories. I could fill a book with it, okay? The things I hear. Okay, slamming, all right? Slamming doors, coming in, slamming refrigerator doors, cabinet doors, room doors. Don't ever say me nothing to eat in here. They make those new cabinets that don't slam? I can't slam these things. I was at my friend's house in Chicago last week, and he had those, not that we were trying to slam anything. I was just like, she was showing me, he's like, oh, you can't slam these. He's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Put that in these other houses. And then throwing things. You can come to my class for all of that stuff just mentioned. You come in, you break a plate. You mad. And I always tell my people who live in apartments, you got to stop it, because people below you, on the side of you, and everything. And Ms. Johnson like, oh, you better come get him tonight. He going to kill her. And they have not touched each other. But the fact that they're making the noise and it sounds horrible, you break a plate, you break a glass, you break a table, you come out, and everybody's like, oh, nobody called y'all? I don't know, but you better get him. You better get him out of here tonight. I don't want him to be here. Next thing you know, he's going to jail. And he's like, okay, well, I just want y'all to get him out of here. I don't want him to go to jail. Well, ma'am, he's going to jail. He can't go to jail. He got to go to work in the morning. And most guys that end up in this class lose their jobs. They lose their jobs because there's a zero tolerance policy. Due to, Patriot Act? They pull in backgrounds. I got guys can't get a job at McDonald's. Because what happens is you see that, and what you see is family violence. That sounds horrible. Now think that you're in HR, and this person is trying to get a job, and you see simple battery, cruelty to children, criminal trespass, preventing a 911 call. You in HR, and you look at that, you're going to think, oh my God, this person is horrible. They don't need a job. I can't hire these people. That's what happens. And it shows up. So some guys will say, when it comes to pulling the background, they'll lose their job because there's a zero tolerance policy, and they'll get right out of jail. Like, how am I supposed to pay for these classes, man? I can't pay for these classes. I don't have a job. I lost my job. And that's when you have a lot of time the women, they'll call the cops, and then they go back down and they bail you out. That's why a lot of this doesn't work. You call the cops, now you bailing them out. If you call the cops, hey, be sure that's who you want to call. And I'm not saying don't, but be sure that's what you want to do. But because of the power and control, I actually saw a client who it had nothing to do with domestic violence. This was actually an individual, an EAP client, and her husband was controlling her from prison. And he was calling while we were in session. And I said, well, we're in session. See, he's blowing me up, and if I don't answer, he's going to think I'm doing something. I'm like, well, why you come to see me? You need to go somewhere else. I don't want this guy in prison coming looking for me. Well, he wasn't going to get out no time soon. He had 70 years, so yeah, don't worry about that. But he actually, and this is the power and control issue, he was actually making her do things. I said, I used to work in a prison. How is he making these phone calls like this? They get tablets now. They get computers now. They get all of that in there. And so what happens is he was calling her, and he was making her do things that she didn't really want to do, but she liked the lifestyle of what he was providing. And she had like 2 Mercedes-Benz. She would come to see me, different cars, always dressed up, hair, nails done, and all of that. And as soon as she didn't do what he wanted her to do, he'd send somebody to the house to start taking stuff. She didn't want, and she worked. I didn't understand it. She worked, but she liked that lifestyle. So she tolerated it to keep the cars and keep everything else. Okay? All right, let's move on. Verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is the use of words or tone of voice to control or harm another person. The victim feels fear, hopelessness, and pain. Names like, you got any kids in here? All right, I'll try to abbreviate. Name, I think I can say this, idiot, and some other stuff, B word, C word. Y'all fill in the blanks here. Yeah, okay, anything that, see, these are very dicey words here that, I can say in my class, but I won't say here. But these words are how the perpetrator views the victim. Now, how many of you guys have said things that you don't, oh, well, thank you. Am I sweating that bad? Yeah, it's hot up here. We got the heat and having my own personal summer up here. Okay. Have you ever said to anybody, have you said something to somebody and you said, I didn't mean that? Okay? I didn't mean it. Tell me why you said it. Because what happens is this. When we get angry, our mental Rolodex gets to turning. Now, for you young folk, that's your contact list. It gets to turning. Kids be like, what's a Rolodex? It gets to spinning in your head, and it's spinning in your head, and you're looking for what? You're looking for words that fit the situation. And generally, those words are what? Truthful. Because you're trying to get back at this person, so you say that stuff that you mean. So when people tell me, well, I didn't mean that, but what you said was actually the truth. So you had to mean it. Well, I was just trying to do that because you were making me upset. We use words that fit the situation. So those words are used purposely. They're meant, okay? Now, and they send a message. So here we go. Some examples of verbal abuse, okay? I don't know if you guys can see that. Accusing. Ever been in a relationship, somebody always accusing you of doing something? I had my guys tell me, well, man, my girl was always, accusing me of cheating, so I just went ahead and did it. Like, what kind of sense does that make? Yeah, okay. Blaming, calling someone names, using sarcasm, threatening, which is verbally paralyzing and used to control and freeze. Okay? Don't have it done when I get back, see what happened. You make that phone call, watch what happened. So you kind of get frozen. You don't move. And using other insults. Okay? Finally. Thank you. Had to wipe my brow. Oh, that was for me? I didn't know it. This one looked better because it got a little frost on it. That means cold. All right, so emotional abuse. Let's move on to emotional abuse, okay? Any form of abuse can be emotionally painful. However, some methods of abuse are directed at being harmful to a person's feelings or sense of self and reality. Tactics of emotional abuse are designed to take the focus off the perpetrator and make the victim take the blame for the problems and to distrust their view of reality within the relationship. Okay? So, if I'm trying to change your view of reality, anybody know what that's called? Say it all the time on the news. Gaslighting. Okay? Gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone, and it happens to us all the time, the media gaslights us every day. They're trying to change our view of reality, trying to change a view of what's really going on. The term actually comes from a movie way back in the 30s and 40s. It was called Gaslighting. Ingrid Bergman, I think, was in it, or somebody, I don't know. And the husband was trying to change his wife's view of reality, trying to make her think she was crazy. And so she started noticing things, but he was like, that's not happening, that's not happening. So you take, for instance, a unicorn. And the unicorn's out there running around with other horses. And the other horses are saying, dude, what's that thing sticking out of your head? Like, what are you talking about? I'm a unicorn, I'm special. Yeah, man, that don't look good. You should probably get that taken care of. So what happens? Unicorn goes and gets it removed, and now he's what? No longer special, just like the regular horses. Change your view of reality. Folks figure if I go out here and buy this perfume by Beyonce, I'm going to be Beyonce. If I go out here and buy this stuff by J-Lo, I'm going to be J-Lo. If I go buy this car, I'm going to be... You get gaslit every day. Every day. It's changing your... somebody fell. Okay? Changing your view of reality. Okay? An example might be if you complained about the finances in the home, but you weren't permitted to get a job and contribute financially. Okay? It refocuses the issue and isolates the victim. All right? So let's look. Some examples of emotional abuse. All right? Being critical of ideas. I want to go back to school. For what? You ain't do nothing but walk around up there for 4 years while you was there anyway. They just let you out. Drinking and taking drugs. Following and stalking. Going through another's personal belongings. I got to stop right there. When I was a kid, my mother told me, don't ever go through a woman's purse because you don't know what she got in there. I never knew what that meant, but I never went in there. Never. To this day, my wife will say, I'll ask her for something. She says, oh, it's in my purse. I go get it and bring the whole thing to her. And she's like, why are you bringing me the whole thing? I said, I was told never to go in there. I don't know what you got in there. Just give me what I need. Never go in it. My son, on the other hand, he's rifling through that thing. I'm like, dude, what you doing in her purse, man? You don't go in a woman's purse. Well, mom told me to get something out of it. I was like, dude, you don't know what she got in there. And to this day, my wife will tell you, I'll bring her the whole bag. I don't need the whole bag. You sit here, you get it out. I don't know what y'all ladies got in y'all bag, but, you know. All right. Going through another person's belongings. Let me ask you this. Is it okay to go through your partner's phone and things like that? If you say yeah, raise your hand. Don't be shy. 1, 2 people, it's okay. 3 people, it's okay to go through it. Okay? Women do it all the time? Yeah, but is it right to go through? Remember, I'm a therapist, not a lawmaker. Okay. If you have a what? An explanation of what?
It's okay with an explanation in that I don't have anything to hide. You don't have anything to hide, so it's okay.
So let me ask you this.
Do it for the purpose of let me see what's going on.
So what do you need permission for? Let me ask you this. What's causing you to go through it? Lack of trust. So you're saying there's no trust in the relationship. Then you don't have a relationship if there's no trust. You don't have a relationship if there's no trust. I leave my phone down. Sometimes it's around the house and it stays on vibrate. Why does it stay on vibrate? Because I'm always with a client, always in class. So I kind of try to keep it next to me. I'll be in the shower. My wife will say, hey, your phone is ringing. I'm like, who is it? She'll look, she's like, there's no name. Answer that. That's a client. And she'll answer the phone. If it's a name, I said, let it go to voicemail. Now, here's the deal. I have never been in a relationship where I thought that my wife was doing something else. I never. I don't even think like that. She doesn't think like that. I trust you until you give me a reason not to. My wife goes out of town all the time. Dallas, Jacksonville, Bloomington. She's constantly going. My guys are like, Dr. Boggs, you trust your wife? Man, she could be with another dude. I'm like, yeah, she probably could, but she probably not. I said, that's your relationship. See, where you're fishing, that's what lives in those waters. I said, y'all need to change your fishing hole. You fishing in the gutter. And when you're in the gutter, what you get? Shark, barracuda, catfish. crab. But see, when you in the clear waters, ever been to Jamaica? Angelfish, starfish. Every now and then a Portuguese man of war. But I'm just saying, you know, I tell him, I said, you gotta be like when Jesus came back and he was standing on the shore and he said, have ye no meat today, my children? It's like, no, man, we ain't catch nothing. He told them what? Cast your net on the other side. I said, that's what y'all need to do. Cast your net on the other side. Cast your net on the other side. I said, y'all up here. But you know what? We do the familiar. You realize that? We do the familiar. Now, what does that mean? How many of you guys attend this church? Any church? Do you sit in the same spot every week? Just about every week. We do the familiar. If you were to come in, these chairs weren't, these pews weren't here, you wouldn't know what to do. Hey, wait a minute, we must see that. We do the familiar. And when those guys get out of those relationships, they go right back into the same ones that got them there because they do the familiar. They come in, I said, you guys sit in the same seats every night and I haven't assigned a seat. For 6 months, you sit in the same seat. I mixed it up one time. We sit in a half circle. I mixed it up one time and made theater seating. It was like, Dr. Parks, why you move the seats? I said, I just wanted to mess with your head tonight. Mix it up. Do something different. But here's the thing. When you go to those clearer waters, you need to change your lure. Now, what's your lure? That's your character. That's your character. You know, as they say in Decatur, hey, shorty, what your name is, don't work over here in the clear waters. Okay? Keep that in the gutter. Somebody had a hand up. Yes, sir. It's a one limit question. No, I'm just kidding.
What is that? What was the law for when somebody else's phone?
Oh, what's the law? I don't think there's a law. I'm saying this. If you have to go through your partner's belongings, there is no trust. And if there's no trust, you have no relationship. That's what I'm saying. I see it all the time. The guys come in my class. My girl was going through my phone and she saw pictures of. I've had guys, I'm like, how your girl? I said, you don't have if you're doing wrong, why you got a code on your phone? Man, I was asleep and she took my hand and put it on my phone. Or, depends on what kind of phone you had. There was, I think it was the Samsung phone where you just moved your hand over the numbers. Well, you know, grease show up so she can see where you've gone. And she goes and punches those numbers and then all your business come up. And when your business come up, you've been caught with all of this stuff. I have guys who were sleeping, got woke up to a brick. I had guys who were sleeping, got woke up to a pet cage. Guys who were sleeping and woke up to hot water, whatever the case. You know what you put the animals in? Yeah, slammed it on his face. Okay, yeah, woke up with a brick to the face. I'm like, whoo, yeah. So those things happen. I don't know if there's a law. I'm just saying I don't go through my wife's things. Now, when I say I don't care, what that means is I don't care what I'm not saying that I don't care about my wife. I don't have time for that because that's a whole nother job you don't get paid for. I'm not interested in that. My wife knows she's married. Okay? Plain and simple. But guess what? If she wanted to do something, you think I could stop her? Most men don't usually do what? Yeah, that was back in the day. These guys today, they're doing that all the time. They're very different. These millennials, they don't trust anybody. They don't trust anybody. They go into a relationship not even thinking about trust. They go into relationships just to have kids and keep moving. I have guys in my class, some of them have 11 kids. I'm like, what are you, a farmer or something? I mean, you trying to get some workers? What are you doing? Yeah. And they got kids for different women all over the place. Makes no sense. I don't have to be, what do they tell me? Dr. Parks, I ain't got to be married, to be a family. I don't have to be in the house, to be a dad. I said, okay. I said, so you don't have to do any of that, right? I said, you on child support right now, right? Yeah. I said, I'm at home. I ain't on child support. I said, tell me this, I'm 100%. Who do your kids see when they wake up? Who do they see when they go to bed? Who can they call and you can go right up to their school when anything go down? Not you. You see what I'm saying? I'm there. They see me when they wake up, they see me when they go to bed, unless they go to bed before I get there. So you do have to be there. Yes?
I have a question. I listened to you talk, and my question is, do you minister to the community of all churches or all community? Because the reason I ask the question is, the resources that we have in our communities, many of our churches are not aware of it.
Right.
So what do you do as an administrator to educate, or what do you recommend that the churches do, specifically in Hillsborough County or even in this county?
Well, what I recommend that,
They're aware of the resources that we have out here to prevent the incarceration.
okay. What I recommend first to prevent incarceration is keeping your hands to yourself, okay? But I also had a package sent to you guys. So this right here actually comes from the GC. I don't know if you did, if you guys did the End It Now campaign here. When that happened, they were talking about ending domestic violence in the church. A lot of churches did not participate in it. And when they did do it, they did it half-heartedly. So what do I recommend? I recommend that your church recognize domestic violence 1 month, like you do cancer, victims of breast cancer, all of that. Do that in your church. October is actually National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but that month is full of everything: cancer, mental health, all of that. Pick a month and decide, this is the month that we are going to recognize and address domestic violence. And it doesn't happen. The reason why it doesn't happen is because I believe that folks still believe that in the church, they're confusing, okay, biblical with, how can I say this? Bible says what? Women should do what? Submit. Submit to your husbands in all that you do. What does that mean? They've taken it out of context. I'm actually working on another PowerPoint now called A Woman's Place. And it talks exactly about submitting. What does that mean? It doesn't mean put your foot on my neck. That's not what that means. And so what happens is people take it out of context, and they only stop right there. Because the next verse says what? Husbands, love your wives as Christ did what? And did what? Died for it. But they always stop right there. That's to keep women in line. Hey, submit. You're supposed to back down. And so when you have that, you have a lot of men not wanting to talk about it. You have a lot of women not wanting to address it in the church. It's still a taboo topic. And this is why we're going to push what the Bible said. The Bible said, the Bible says a whole lot. And the Bible can use anybody. God can use anybody. Well, I'm not going to even go there. Yes, sir.
Doc, you spoke about the hierarchy or prevalence in terms of environment, places, Alaska, and so on, where there's a prevalence of this kind of abuse. You also spoke in terms of ethnicity, white, Asians, and so forth. Is there any statistic that you have as it relates to profession, primarily in the area of clergymen, or policemen, or whatever?
Anybody can come. Let me tell you who I've had. Sheriffs, pastors, judges, dentists, doctors, everybody. Everybody comes.
What if you to rank them? What profession is the highest or
I don't know. I never thought about it like that, but mostly professional folks would be on the top because they live a lifestyle, power and control. Most of my African American clients come there because they're just fighting. It's really not domestic. It's really not a power and control situation. They're fighting over lack of resources or because of infidelity. Power and control, white folks all day long. She's got a good job, she's got a good family, good car, she's got a good neighborhood. She needs to show me what it is she's making. Why do you need to show you? Well, you know, I lost my job and she's a sole breadwinner right now. She's trying to hold that over my head. Yeah, that's what you get. You get other folks in there. I'm the man. She's supposed to do what I say. If she don't do what I say, there's punishment for that. I don't even know why they have these classes. Those are usually my Egyptians.
I have another question.
Another one? Go ahead.
This is Jesus. Haven't you read in the law of Moses that a man can divorce his wife, give her? But I say unto you, do not do that only for the cause of adultery. In your counseling, are there legitimate reasons or occasions when you would directly or indirectly suggest to your clients that they should divorce from the situation and completely no going back at all?
Excellent question. The answer is no. I don't tell people to leave and I don't tell people to stay. That's a decision they have to make. Me, as a therapist, I just present the issues. If I tell you to leave, that woman is going to do what? She's going to go back and say, Dr. Parks told me I need to leave you and blah, blah, blah. Now I got a guy coming up looking for me. Seriously. Seriously. I've had women come to the class. Dr. Parks, where Dr. Parks at? He ain't here, you know. Can I help you? You Dr. Parks? Yeah. This ain't gonna work. So people start looking. I'm like, I'm not in a relationship with this woman. I don't know what she's talking about. And what she said, what happens is the guy will come home and he'll have something in class twisted. Like I tell guys, you need to validate your partner more. I think if people validated each other more, you'd have less of this foolishness going on. Valid means to make true. And there's like 6 levels of that. I won't get into it tonight, but valid means to make true. What are you making true? You're making true their emotions about what's going on. And so what happens is, you know, if you don't do what your probation officer says, you get violated. That means they're going to take you to jail. She came in to me and she said, you told him to violate me? I'm like, what are you talking about violate you? He came home talking about, y'all was talking about violate. I said, no, man, that's validate. I told him to validate you. And I explained to her what it was. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah, he do need to do more of that. So they get it twisted. Okay? All right, let's keep it moving. Having an affair, insulting another's friends, and isolating your partner from family and friends. A lot of times, these guys that live off power and control will marry a woman and move her, you know, out of the state or across town, and then say bad things about her family. So now she's isolated from the family. I don't want you talking to them. They're giving us bad advice. They're giving you bad advice. And so a lot of times the woman stops associating with the family. He's breaking down her what? Breaking down the support system. Breaking down the support system, okay? And that way she has no one to go to. There's gaslighting going on. You got flying monkeys everywhere. Kind of gets wild. Okay, let's move on. Ooh, sexual abuse. Yes, sir.
I remember you went over confinement because form of abuse, especially where the male is the probably main breadwinner.
Mhm.
The wife is told, listen, stay home, don't leave unless I know where you're going.
Yeah, we call that isolation.
It's isolation.
It's isolation. Okay? Absolutely. You controlling where she goes, what she reads, who she talks to, all of that. So she can't watch Lifetime. She can't read articles. I remember when I was going to write my dissertation, I was going to do it on some relationship stuff. I can't remember, but I started gathering every Essence, Ebony, and Jet magazine. In every last one of them, every quarter or however much they come out, there was a thing about relationships. How to know your man cheating, how to, please your woman, all of that. And I'm like, every month, y'all ain't got this yet? And every last one of them just keeps circulating. I'm like, y'all don't get it yet? How often you got to put this in here? Of course, I changed that and wrote something on domestic violence. And it's called, the title was Understanding the Stay-Leave Phenomenon in Intimate Partner Violence, Why She Stays. The better question is, why does he stay? I'll talk about that tomorrow if you show up. Trying to get you to come back. All right, so let's look at sexual abuse. Sexual abuse involves the control of the sexual relationship to fulfill the perpetrator's need for control. Okay, controlling sexual attitudes and values can have a destructive impact that often is overlooked in battering relationships. I actually had a woman who couldn't take it anymore, and she ended up in class. But what her husband did was he would, he had like a 45. And so he would be cleaning it in front of her, pointing it at her. And then when it came time for sex, he'd have it on the nightstand. And it was like, you're going to do whatever I tell you to do, or you're going to get this. He'd take it, rub it over her body, put it in places that shouldn't go, and the whole nine. And it was loaded. She couldn't take it anymore, did something to him. She ended up in class. People come there for a myriad of reasons. You can come there. I had a guy there for beating his son. Now, that's what I don't get. Now, you're going to end up, somebody going to call DFACS, which y'all call Child Protective Services. We call it DFACS, Department of Family and Children Services. I see you. And what happened was he beat his son. I said, well, dude, what was going on? Every time I get a new guy, I ask him three things. What's your name? What behavior got you here? And what you plan on getting out of class? The what your behavior got you here, get stuck on. Because you say, well, she did. I say, okay, let me stop you. Tell me what behavior got you here. I'm telling you. I said, she did. I said, tell me what behavior got you here. Man, what's wrong with him? He don't understand what I'm talking about. I said, she. I said, you're leading with she. What did you do? I don't care what she did. You're here, not her. Tell me what you did. But he beat his son, and then he sent him to school. And you know what he was beating him for? Because he was late. I said, so that made him later, right? Because it takes time to beat him. What was that supposed to do? And he ended up getting 24 weeks. This is how Georgia captures everyone. We call it family violence. Other states are called batterer. So in Georgia, we're going to catch you if you're doing what? Getting into it with your mama, your auntie, your brother, your sister, your cousin, any of that. It's family. That's how you get caught up in it. It's family. I had two guys, white judge, same county. Guy got into it with his daughter. He got 24 weeks. This is a class I used to do down there by Creflo Dollar Church. Y'all heard of Creflo Dollar? Yeah, he got caught up with his daughter too. I ain't see him in my class though. I was looking for him. I'm like, Creflo gonna be calling me. I'm right down the street. I know his money good. Anyway, so another guy was in the class and he got into it with his father because he's 30-something years old and his father was like, you're not gonna be just living around here, not doing anything. So he got into it with his dad. The guy got into it with his dad, had 12 weeks of class, anger management. The other guy had 24 weeks who got into it with his daughter. Anybody know the difference? They both got into it with a family member who they were not intimate with. Age? Mm-mm. Dad got into it with a female. So they gave dad 24 weeks. The other guy got into it with a male, they gave him 12. Let me tell you why that's incorrect. Because the guy who got into it with his daughter should have got anger management. Well, he shouldn't have got anger management. Anybody know what he should have got? He should have got a parenting class. Because his parenting style is what was in question. But they just throw everybody in the same pot. I'm like, you should be here for parenting. They're questioning your parenting style. You're not in an intimate relationship with your daughter. She broke curfew. Dad wasn't having it. She called the cops. Sir, let's go. Daughter couldn't live in my house no more. As they taking me out, I'm telling my wife, follow them down here, bring the money, and find a place for her on the way down. 'Cause she can't stay here no more. I'm serious. I always used to tell my kids that. I wish you would call the cops in here. You can't live in this lap of luxury no more. It's over. It's over. You better call Granny and Pawpaw because you can't stay here. I refuse. Calling the cops on me. All right. So let's look at this. Sexual abuse. Examples of sexual abuse. Okay. Now, this first one, I kind of got a problem with. Okay. I'm going to read it. I don't know if y'all can see it. But it says, anger, becoming angry and demanding when sex is denied. I got a problem with that. How you denying me? You know? How are you denying me? But that's what happens, okay? There was something out there on social media the other day. Somebody was like, what happens, when someone denies you or something like that. And people were saying, well, it depends on what caused the denial. Usually when people are denying sex, it's unresolved anger or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, it's none of that. What it is that actually after you said I do, you didn't. That's when it happened. People always think that incidents happen when the actual act happens. But if you said I do and then you don't with anything, that's where it starts. That's where it starts. It doesn't necessarily start with infidelity. I ain't cooking nothing tonight. I ain't painting that room. I ain't doing what, but you said you would. Didn't you say I do? That's what that means. Sickness and in health. I'm sick, where you going? People, I ain't signed up for this. Rich or poor, I lost my job. Well, you better find one or I'm going. I ain't signed up for it. Go get that wedding DVD. Here you is saying I do right here. Did you lie? Did you lie to me? Yeah. People looking to jet. Okay? Fantasies. Forcing fantasies. Okay? Rape. Now, is it possible to rape your spouse? Y'all sounded unsure about that. If you think you cannot rape your wife, raise your hand. Somebody ain't gonna raise your hand because you're afraid everybody looking. Everybody just look this way. You won't see who raising their hand. Okay? My guys have a difficult time with this. You can rape your wife. You can. Okay? If she says no and you take it, it's rape. Pastor, you want to say anything about that one? All right. If you take it, it's rape. Now, yeah. Me personally, if you ain't trying to get, I ain't trying to take it. I want it to be mutual. I want it to be reciprocated. If you don't want it, I don't want it either. Okay? Yeah, but you can. Now, I don't know how many, I actually had a friend, and she's still in an abusive relationship, but the abuse has toned down, and she had been calling me, and I was giving her advice about what to do. I said, you need to do whatever you can to keep you and your child safe. Well, should I leave? I said, that's your choice. I can't tell you that. If you feel it's unsafe, then do what you need to do. So she kind of got a little brave, talking to me. And she called me one night. And when she did, I actually knew something had happened. Because it was like 11 o'clock or something at night. And she had left him. And he had actually raped her twice that night. Because she had actually just shut down. Nobody wants to do that when they're getting smacked and punched. It's like, yeah. And that's what was happening. And so that night, she actually thought that she was going to die. And she ended up calling the police. And when they came, she said, don't turn your sirens on. I'll just come and open the door. And I actually told her, I said, you probably need to get a spare phone just in case and keep that somewhere. And she did, and it worked for her that night. Because if she didn't have that phone, she probably wouldn't have got out that night. So, okay. Affairs, having an affair, we mentioned that earlier, and refusing to use birth control. It's like, wow, that's sexual abuse? Yeah. Refusing to use, remember the guy I talked about, had 11 kids? Refusing to use. Okay, now, you heard what abuse is. Now let's define, let me go back. Define battering. So by the definition of abuse is much more than a one-time incident of physical contact. Okay? Across the areas of physical, verbal, emotional, and sexual abuse, abuse is defined as a process of attitudes and behaviors designed to control and harm another person. Okay? Now, taking that same definition, you can expand the definition of battering as a process of attitudes and behaviors designed to control someone. So battering is actually what? Controlling, and abuse is actually what? Harming. Those are the differences between the two. And it's a process of attitudes and behaviors. Okay? So, in these last few minutes, I'm going to give you guys a case vignette to see what you've learned. Okay? Vanna White, please, can I help you? I need you to pass out something here for me. Okay? I'm sorry, Vanna Black. Okay? You want to pass out that side? Mike, can you pass out this side? Yes. Can you pass it? Sometimes women end up as victims. They get the same thing. And see, that's the hard thing about it. When you hear what they did, you're like, oh, yeah, she in the right place. But I think the reason I like working with women is because when women come in, they're going to be honest about what they did. They're going to lie about it. Yeah, I beat him. I did. He was over that other woman's house and blah, 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 blah. That's what you get. Guys be like, man, I ain't do nothing to her. I don't even know why I'm here. They constantly deny it. You really don't have time to pick out victims because the judge said you need to go. And so if the judge said it, I can't do like I said, I can't do a support group. You've been mandated to attend this family violence class because you broke the law. Domestic violence is a crime against the state. That's why it doesn't come off your record until you complete it. Now, earlier we talked about the temporary protective order. If you, and that's usually done out of superior court. If you don't go to class and you violate that temporary protective order, when they catch you, you're going to do 20 to 30 days in jail. When you get out, they're going to say, now go do those classes like we told you to. See, people think that they just assign these classes and you go on about your life. No, they do compliance court, which means they keep bringing you back to see if you're in compliance with the order. And so a lot of people will call me, come down, pay their money, you never see them again. Then they come, yo, Dr. Parks, y'all still having a class? Yeah, who is this? Yeah, man, this is DeQuavius. That's a true name. It's a real name. Yeah. DeQuavius, Donricus, Nokia, Wachovia. Those are all real names. I don't know what these people are thinking when they name their kids. Anyway, I need to get back in class. I got to go see my probation officer or I got court. I'm like, well, okay, come on back. I said, but you know you got to start over, right? Well, man, I gave you that money before. I'm like, dude, that's gone. When you gave me that, 3 absences, you hit the 4th one, we discharge you. So they already know you're not in class because we faxed the paperwork and let them know you are not in compliance. So, man, I got to give you another $100. You don't have to. You can go to jail. And when you get out, come and see me. We could do it that way. Man, all right, man, where you going to be? Where you going to be? I'm going to be where I'm at, you know. But I actually do enjoy what I do, and I love working with the guys and trying to help them because they come in, a lot of times they come in angry and a lot of them got bad attitudes. Monday night, I almost had 2 guys fight in the class. And I just sat there and like, well, I got to fly out, Wednesday to go to Michigan. So if y'all going to do this, y'all need to hurry up because, police out in the parking lot. You know what happens? You're going to go to jail and y'all going to have to start over. Now you, my friend, you just started over tonight. You want to start over again? I'm not breaking anybody up. Y'all going to fight. And it was because somebody called somebody else stupid. Guys in class tried to bring, come on, man, that's why y'all in here in the first place. I'm like, bravo, you see it. But in Fulton County in Atlanta, I keep the police out in the parking lot. And that's not for protection for me, but we had a lot of people breaking in cars. And I do that location is at my church. Yeah, we've had people get robbed right outside of church, after church, at gunpoint. Guy coming, cutting the grass, he get robbed. So I said, let me get the cops out here. Yes.
Question, you focus on couples. We have in our communities a lot of single families that are living in low-income housing, et cetera. And many of them are being incarcerated because of lack of resources or lack of knowledge in the community for the parent or for the child. And I'm listening to what you were having to say, but I'm focusing on couples versus single parent homes.
A lot of these people are single parent homes. They just have kids with somebody.
So the children are, and we have many children that are in juvenile detention, or the parent is the mother or the father of the child is incarcerated, so therefore they end up no home, no place, or in the other situation we deal with is abortion. If a child is under 17 years of age here, I would say Washington County, because I don't know the population for all of Michigan. But if you're 17 years of age and your parent does not sign for you to get that abortion, that child has to have that abortion. I mean, that child has to have that baby, and that baby goes up for adoption. But we're resourcefully, we have no resources for them. So what counseling do you offer to a community of this sort?
Well, what we do is, as I mentioned earlier, you have a victim liaison. Okay, that is the individual that assists the victim when they're going through this. So the victim liaison will safety plan with the victim. We'll let them know that there's resources out there and connect them to those different resources that they, may need during that time. Sometimes they end up staying, at the shelter. My victim liaison is Partnership Against Domestic Violence. And
But most of the time, there is no victim liaison if that person is not in the system yet.
Okay.
In order for them to get that information, okay, I'm gonna pick on Leah for a minute, okay? She knows I talk to her anyway. There are certain things that she can't do with the person, with the client, if they're not in the system. And there are social workers that she networked with that can only follow what the system says. But as a liaison, as a person in the community who's advocating with the system, they can go in and advocate, but if the person,
Right.
the family don't accept that advocacy, then they're gonna end up in the system. So the question that pastors and parents are asking, what can we do to the judges? What can we do before they get to you? They don't know.
Well, actually, if that is your passion to work with this community, there is actually something you can do, and that is you can get with these organizations. Like I said, Partnership Against Domestic Violence is who I use. You can go to them and say, hey, I would like to, volunteer. They have, this volunteer track that you can go on. They'll put you answering the phone. You can link them to different services in the community. What you also have is your church. Your church has to do, and I'm not saying this church, but the church has to do a better job. Then we used to have, what was that, Dorcas? What do they call it now? Community service. We change the name. Dorcas, community service. Those people used to get out, going in the community. We don't do that anymore. Okay, well, in the South. We don't, let me say this. We don't do it like we should. Okay, everybody comes to the church before the church went out to the community. We're not going out in the community like we used to. And a lot of people know that these programs exist. And so you have to go out there and tie these people and link these people to these different programs. That's the only thing that you can really do. My job is not necessarily to link them to these programs, but when I do have information and I know information, I will link people up with information. The person who does my women's classes, because I used to do them and I just got tired and I hired somebody, she is a licensed clinical social worker. And so she has a lot of resources that she connects these women to. But as far as the church, you have mental health people in your church. Use those people, lean on those people and say, hey, we need to go ahead and start working and helping these people. And I know you're shaking your head because it happens everywhere. It doesn't happen for me. Like I said, in my own church, I've been trying to get churches to talk about this. And when you bring it up to the pastor, they don't even want to address it. They don't want to address it because they figure, well, that's a man and woman thing, or they have their own bias about it, or they could be participating in it themselves. All right, we're going to move on now. I will say no names. Okay, so what you have in front of you is a sheet, and I'm going to use this as we close out here. This is Bobby's story. Now, a lot of these case vignettes are in the manual I use, and these were guys who were actually in class, okay? So this is actually a true story, okay? So what I want you to do, we're going to go through it, and what I want you to do is yell, stop, when you hear something that is not good, or if you hear something that is abusive, or you hear something that's battering, because I gave you this eloquent definition of abuse and battering. You remember what it is? What's abuse? Okay. Process of attitudes and behaviors that cause harm. Battering, process of attitudes and behaviors that use to control someone. Okay? Use to control someone. All right. So let's go ahead. This is Bobby. Now remember, I want you to stop me. I don't understand what went wrong. Lisa and I were a happy couple for the first year, and then everything changed. First, she had a baby, and that really put a lot of stress on me. She started getting too tired to do anything with me. She wanted to get a job because she said we didn't have enough money. So I'm going to stop myself right there because you guys think like the guys in my classes. You should have actually stopped me a long time ago. There's several stops in here. When he says, I don't understand, that's a stop. You know exactly what you're doing, okay? He said we were a happy couple the first year. That's whose definition? Right. If we talked to Lisa, she'd be like, no, we weren't. Then he says, and then everything changed. First, she had a baby. He had nothing to do with that? Y'all just let that go by? I'm surprised at my Pontiac people. Okay, she had a baby. Like she went down to the Piggly Wiggly and said, give me that one right there. You know, a light-skinned one with good hair. Okay, y'all Southern folk know Piggly Wiggly, I know. Okay, so it says, she started getting too tired to do anything with me. What is that? He wants some romance, and now she too tired. Why is she tired? He ain't helping with the baby. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this baby, because this baby is going to change forms as we get down to the end. Okay? She wanted to get a job because she said we didn't have enough money. I considered that an insult. I mean, okay, what's wrong with that? Y'all just yelling, stop. What you saying, stop? What's wrong with that? It's an insult. I work. What you need a job for? This is actually called economic abuse. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay? And if she gets a job, then what? She got some say-so. No, we ain't spending no money on that foolishness. Or she can go out and be what? Independent. Okay? All right. He considered it an insult. I mean, my job is making the money, and she needs to take care of my son. She had a kid. Now it's what? It's my son as we go through this. I had the phone turned off because she was spending so much money talking. Okay? Now remember we talked about that before. You see what I'm saying? He had the phone turned off. Okay? Because she's complaining. He's controlling the situation. Okay? All right. Yeah, I had the phone turned off. Hold on. I think this font is in a 2. Okay, I had the phone turned off because she was spending so much money talking to her mother. You know this is old because anybody can call long distance now. Okay, it said she didn't like that, but she was the one who was complaining about money. I started going out more with my friends, and I would drink, but not too much really. Okay, what's going on? Listen, if we complaining about money, don't drinks cost? Remember somebody at the club last night, how much drinks cost? Drinks cost. I asked my guys how much drink costs. I'm like, what? Man, you need to take your own in there. Like you do at the movies, you take your own popcorn. My wife got this big bag. She makes sandwiches and everything. I'm like, we're going to get kicked out of here, man. She passing out food like we on a picnic. Mom, can I have some water? Okay. She was always getting on me about going out and drinking. Hey, I was the one making the money, so I should be able to go out once in a while. Okay? What's wrong with that? See, y'all stopping me at the right places, but you ain't giving me the right answers. What's wrong with that? Oh, in the back. Say something. Well, okay, that's one way. He ain't taking her out, leaving her at home with the child. Okay, but again, it's what? He make the money. I make the money. You get to stay here with the kid. So if I want to go spend, I can spend. Some of y'all are like, Lord, all this stuff was going on. I thought this was right when I was coming up. Okay? Now, she complained so much, it would usually end up with us getting into an argument. I would yell, call her a moron or a whore. She would start, okay? So there goes that name calling. Now, in my classes, it's funny because black guys will say, Dr. Parks was a whore. I have to tell them, you know what y'all, that's what that means. Seriously, they don't. They was like, man, that's some white guy stuff. I don't know what that is. Yeah, they're not used to that word. So they get psychology, religion, English, grammar, everything when they come to my class. Guys are like, I like this class, Dr. Parks, man. I like this class. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so now, what I said earlier, he called her those names. Does he mean it? And he means it because they fit the situation. You see what I'm saying? We say those words because they fit the situation. Anytime you're yelling at somebody and saying all kind of stuff, you're picking words that fit the situation, so you mean it. I ain't mean to call you stupid, but you made me mad. But you said that something that she did, you said it was stupid. You just stupid. You meant that. If you didn't mean it, you wouldn't have said it. If you didn't mean it, you'd say something like, listen, my lovely, beautiful wife, I need you to be a little bit more intelligent. But you called her stupid. You meant it, okay? It says she would start crying, okay? That's emotional abuse. If she kept nagging me, I would threaten to leave her, okay? That's coercion and threats. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna call defects on you. I'm gonna call welfare. That's an old word. They're gonna come take your aid. All of that, okay? She usually shut up after that. Anyway, one night I came home and she just started in on me. I just couldn't take it. I lost control and threw a shoe at her. Okay, what's the problem with that? Somebody said battery. That battery, is that a process? Attitudes and behaviors, is he controlling her? Okay, or is he harming her? Okay, that's abuse. Now he said, I lost control. Now, generally when folks say I lost control, that's an excuse. It's an excuse. I just lost control. I blacked out. That's an excuse to try to cover up what you did. Okay? Because I always tell people, losing control, I said, you can always avoid conflict. Nah, man, you don't understand. You don't understand? I'm like, no, I do understand. Because there's two words. If you learn those words, you can stop a lot of foolishness. Situational cues and physical cues. Situational cues are topics where there's likely to be a difference of opinion. Now, what are yours? And a lot of people don't know. They lead to your physical cues when you disregard them, which are what? What are your physical cues? Guys in class don't even know. Man, I just started cursing. I started breaking things. That's not a physical cue. That's actually the action. A physical cue, it's actually in the title. Heavy breathing, sweating, pacing, wringing of hands, gritting of teeth. That lets you know you need to do something different. But if you don't have the skill set, how are you going to know what to do? And guys think that walking away is the answer. It is not. I actually do a spot called timeout versus walking away. I got 1 million of these. All right, let's keep it moving. Okay, let's see. I lost control through the shredder. When she tried to leave with the kid, wait a minute. She had a baby, my son, the kid. He's using that to fit the situation. When she tried to leave with the kid, I stood in her way and grabbed the keys. Yeah, there you go. Somebody paying attention. Blocking, restraining. She still tried to leave, so I pushed her on the couch. I hear a lot of mumbling. I told her, don't think about leaving. You won't make it out the door. Okay? Coercion, threats, you won't make it out the door. Okay? I didn't mean anything by it, but she got scared and called the police. She's so weak. She knows I get angry and she doesn't realize that it's my way or the highway now. Okay? Now what's key in, you woke up on that one, huh? It's my way or the highway now. What is that? What's key in that? My way or the highway now. So maybe before the kid, maybe she was working. Maybe she had a job and she could contribute, or maybe she made the most money. He says, it's my way or the highway now. I had to pay close attention to this. And then he says, now I'm better. I would never touch her. When I get mad, I just punch thank you, sir. I just punch the wall or door to let her know I'm angry. What is that? Intimidation. That seems to do the trick. She just calms down and I calm down. What's going on with Bobby? There is no diagnosis called crazy. Okay? Bobby does not get it. Okay? Bobby does not get it because he's in this class making this statement. It's my way or the highway now, and I just punch a wall. So in other words, she's still in that abusive relationship. She's still with him, and they're still doing the same things that got him to the class. And a lot of my clients do that. The same things that got them to the class, they are continuing to do. And if you go to jail while you're in class, you automatically go back to zero and start over. That's if you get arrested for another violent act. Now you can go to jail for a suspended license and keep your spot in class. But don't be in there too long. I give you 4 weeks because I know people get caught up in the system. After 4 weeks, I'm discharging you. Okay? Any questions? In the words of Joel Osteen, did you catch it? You catch the anointing tonight? All right, questions, yes.
Can some people volunteer to take the class in order to avoid the symptoms, or is that part of the symptoms?
You know, it's funny that you say that because everybody come and says, I took this class so I can get it off my record. You were coming here regardless. You come in regardless. And see, what they don't tell you is, let's say your stuff gets discharged, okay? The judge says, that's it. Both of y'all lying. Get out my courtroom. Yeah, Dr. Parson got to come back to class. My case has been dismissed. Okay, that's fine. So let me say this to you. Did they tell you that you can't get this off your record till you finish the class? No, because they're not going to tell you that. Because the people at the courtroom want you out of the court. And what happens is, I said, now, you can go ahead and leave. But if you try to get a job and you can't, and you call me, I'm going to tell you, you need to get back in class. I had a guy who did not listen to me, young guy. And I don't know how he ended up in there. Something about somebody was trying to run somebody over with a car. He got a job, good job. He called me up and he said, Dr. Parks, what was that you were saying about that expungement? And I said, who is this? And he told me, and I said, oh. I said, yeah, man, you've been out of class for 5 months. You talking about expungement now? Well, yeah, man, and I got a good job too. And, they flew me out to California. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, what happened? Well, what happened was they pulled his record in Atlanta. They saw nothing. Okay, let's hire him. They bring him on. We want to train him. Flew him out to California. Got out there, he was getting $50 an hour. $50 an hour. Pulled it again, all of it showed up. They fired him on the spot. He knew nobody in California, had to figure out how to get back to Atlanta, and then he called me. I said, I told you should have got that. Now, he finished the class, but he didn't go and get his record expunged. They don't do that anymore. The GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, that's where you'd have to go to get your record expunged once you finish the class. Take your disposition, go over there. I guess they stopped doing it because they kept getting so many people. They was like, look, we can't, And so what happens is now the court does what they call record restriction. So once you finish, your record is restricted unless you try to get a job with law enforcement or any state, government or something like that. They're going to see it. But other than that, nobody can see it once you complete the class. Yes, sir.
Do you consider it's a problem where individuals attend the class and they just sit there but do not get it?
Yes. that brings up the issue of the way that they were raised, what a man should do, what a woman should do. It also has to do with mental health. Because I get guys in my class that cannot read, cannot write. And it's embarrassing because these guys are like 20-something years old. I've had guys in my class who are 60, 70 years old. I'm like, look, man, how you this old coming to this class? You know, that gal I got living with me, you know, she won't let me be the man. She trying to do everything. Okay. The gal, how old is she? Oh, man, you the young thing, she about 26. Yeah. So when we have people in there that have issues with domestic violence, with literacy, guys will come to me and say, because I give homework. I don't just come sit in class. We doing homework because homework allows you, I asked them, I said, when you were in school, you got homework. I said, for those of you who went, when you were in high school, when you were in school, you got homework for what? Because the teacher was being a jerk. I said, no, the teacher gave you homework because it afforded you the opportunity to do what? To practice. What are you practicing for? The test. Every day y'all walk out of my class, you getting tested. Every day. I'm trying to prepare you for that. So if you know how to use these skills, you can be successful. And so that's why I give homework. And some of them, they will call. I said, you can call me. If you don't have anybody at home, call me. I'll walk you through it. Some of them I call. Some of them like, Dr. Park, look, man, I got dyslexia, and I don't like to be called out in class. And I said, okay, man, I'm not going to call you out. But if you can't read or you have a problem with that, so long as you let me know, we good. Because my intent is not to embarrass anybody. I don't want to do that. I got embarrassed by teachers coming up. We couldn't do nothing. Now today they shooting teachers. Yeah. So I'm like, I get it. And so you help people out when they come in. I had a young guy one time. I think he was like 20 years old. I met him. I said, okay, I need you to complete this, and this. And I said, and I'll be back to check on you. I went in my office for about an hour. Came out. He was just sitting there. Looked at his paper. All he had was his name on it. I'm like, what you doing, man? I don't understand any of this. You can't read? Not really. You couldn't tell me that and I've been sitting back there for an hour? Just tell me, man. We could have walked through the thing. But you get that. They can't read. Everybody got a GED. Nobody's thinking about finishing high school. They're not trying to get a job because they're hooked up with these women who have AIDS. And she got kids from several guys, and they still, this is a place for me to lay my head. And that's what they flock to. A lot of that depends. That's my Fulton County clientele. That's my DeKalb County. My Gwinnett guys are a little bit more intelligent. But when it starts getting down, around Atlanta area, those guys just there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned at your church, for example, no one uses you as a resource for various reasons. Pride, this, that.
They like to use me for the free stuff.
So, question I have is, how would you encourage or advise a church to use a resource like yourself? Like for instance, what would you like to see? Meaning, what could we do to make use of services like the ones that we provide with our local area? Or, what would you have your church do to maximize?
Well, y'all can keep bringing me up here, the resources I had sent to you guys, that's one option. Getting online and looking at local domestic violence programs and shelters. You guys have them here, just like we have them in Georgia. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you some names you probably will know. What county are we in? Washtenaw. I used to see that all the time when there was a tornado coming. Okay, so 14th Congressional District, Detroit Police Department Victim Assistance Program. In Pontiac, it's called Haven. Okay, and then in Detroit, YWCA Interim House. Okay, Carroll, Port Huron, Monroe, Mount Clemens, Hillside, Adrian. Yeah. Traverse City, Petoskey, Muskegon, Holland, Battle Creek, Grand Rapids, Mount Pleasant, Big Rapids, Midland, St. John, Saginaw, Flint, Three Rivers, Allegan, Kalamazoo, Paw Paw, Escanaba, Ironwood, Alpena, Grayling, Wilson, Houghton, Sault Ste. Marie, Calumet, Lance, Manistee. If I didn't call your county, you probably have to look at one that's closer. Huh? Right, I started with the bottom. They're not on here. I started with the bottom. And see, you guys need to contact the NCADV, National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and get them on the list. But you get in contact with these different different locations. Maybe I should come up here and open up one. Okay. Well, I'm saying on the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence list here, Washtenaw is not on here. It's called a safe house. So what you would do is try to partner with these organizations. Now, for men, it's going to be hard because they will not, I don't know how they do it here in Michigan, but in Georgia, a man cannot be on the crisis line because women call that and then they hear a dude, hello, crisis line, and they hang up the phone because it's another man on the other line. So men can't work the crisis line and they can't work in the shelters. But partner with them and see how you can help. And here's the thing, you can actually do a preventative group. Just start putting it out there in the community. You know, men who are against, violence in relationships, call it what you want to call it. But you have to have someone in there that knows what they're talking about. Now, I will not say push religion unless you're doing a faith-based program. If you're not doing a faith-based program, that's not a good look. Because people I don't want to hear what the Bible say, and I've had guys in my class who some of them would, this one guy had his Bible all the time. And he would come to class, he wasn't really paying attention. And so then he got into it, one night and he starts quoting scripture. So everything he threw out, I shut it down. And the class was like, I don't want to hear from you. I want to hear from Dr. Parks. If I want church, I'll wait till Sunday morning. So you got to be careful if it's faith-based. But you have to be careful with faith-based and make sure you're not pushing a patriarchal stance. It should be what? Equality. It's a partnership. An egalitarian relationship. When I say that to my guys, they think I'm talking about a bird. I'm like, no, man, that means equal. Egalitarian. No, not an eagle. All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, we here do not do the end it now.
Okay.
The NLE. So what light can you throw it that will benefit us this evening?
Say that again, the last part.
What light can you throw on the end it now?
Oh, on the end it now. I actually called and had this sent to Leah. So there's a lot of information in here. Oh, you brought this. I was like, she sent a knife? I was like, I need to call her and tell her. I've actually hooked up with the conference, and they're going to get me on the schedule for next year because it's really going to take a community of men to stop this. It's really going to take a community of men. It's difficult for women to get this moved because it looks like what? Just a bunch of angry women talking. But when you have men, you see what I'm saying, out there talking about this, then they kind of listen. So there's resources here. You can also contact the conference, and Erica Jones, I think is her name, and she will actually send you out a packet on how to run the End It Now program. Okay, that's basically what they do. And to me, they don't do such a good job because you're sending, oh, here's the packet. There needs to be training with that. They need to send someone out and do that. A lot of people can't come, and a lot of people don't want to. So to me, they should actually be going out. And, it may cost a lot of money, but hey, if you're interested, we'll come to your church and we'll show you how to do this. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say that a lot of it depends on the resources in your county. For an example, this is Washington County, the next door is Wayne County. And Wayne County Washington County is the richest county actually in the state of Michigan. So therefore, resourcefully, we have all the resources here in this county. It used to be Oakland.
Oakland County is original? I'm just thinking Pontiac.
Well, I said that to say this because working with the nonprofit agencies in the community, we are looking at resourceful ways of training people to be advocates, to work with people like you and Leah and others in the community.
Okay, good job. Yes. Oh, you just waving at me? Okay. Any other questions? Well, I thank you for, number one, coming out, sticking around after church. I want to thank my Pontiac family for coming down. I want to thank the Ypsilanti family. And it's funny because when I told people I was going there, it's like, where? I'm like, if you ain't from Michigan, you wouldn't understand. You can't say Charlevoix. You can't say these different words, Livernois. So I said, I'm going to Ypsilanti. What? So, yeah. I want to thank Leah for bringing me up. I appreciate it. Hopefully, we can come back again, do something different. If you want to come out tomorrow, I will be here tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., talking about power and control. So if you want to come out tomorrow morning, I think it's 10 a.m.
Power control on what, right?
Yeah. Well, understanding a power and control relationship. So what we'll do is we'll go around the wheel and you'll see the different ways. People think that abuse is all physical, but it's not. Okay? And that's what you'll notice when you're looking at power and control. Not physical at all. Yeah, we'll be looking at religion, sex, using the kids, isolation, coercion and threats, economic abuse, emotional abuse, all of that. Yes, sir.
It's not probably an easy subject to deal with, but in the health field, they have a good Samaritan law where people can help people. If someone, for instance, I know that some women, men, would like to use cell phones, even today's society. But it's good for them when they're on the road. So if you're a wife who says to your husband, you need to have your phone, and they won't carry a phone with them. Is it forcing them to do what they don't want to do, and is that abuse from that perspective?
Say that for me one more time.
Okay, so someone that for instance, you're in a relationship with someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they are going on the road. They don't own a phone, they don't carry a phone, but you're trying to get them to use a phone for safety reasons, especially in today's society, right? But they keep refusing it. Is it like forcing them to do it by asking them to buy from a person that phone, and giving them the phone and say, well, you need to carry this? Is that abuse?
If you're using it for a power and control move, then it is. But if it's for safety, because you can cloak that saying it's for safety, but it's really for power and control. Okay, what are you going to do? If they refuse, what can you do? Can't make them take it. Some people have technology phobia. Have them come see me. We can work through that. But yeah, if they don't want to take the phone, if they don't want to use it, you can't make them do it. But if you come to them in a way that's showing care and concern, and they realize that, then they'll take the phone. Hey, listen, I don't like you being out on the road by yourself. I want you to take this phone because if something happens to you, I want you to be able to contact the police or me. How far can you go in sister? I don't know. You're trying to make me say something. I'm not falling for that. I'm a Jedi master, man. You can't make me say that. Yeah, that's up to you and your partner. That's up to you and your partner. Yes.
When you began your presentation, you alluded to a type of a corporate controlling slavery and other things.
Prostitution.
Right. Is there any measure or linkage that you can see or derive from what we will call institutional control in terms of the church?
Institutional control
By the church.
by the church. Go ahead.
Let's add the general conference and the hierarchical structures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you see any, right, correlation between, right, this thought of power and control as to what can be done, right? Doctrinal belief systems, right. I'm trying to be nice, it's real air.
Are we live? Go ahead.
But do you see any correlation or connection, right, to the controlling of the mind? Looking at slavery and how that was, right, a systemic thing that was controlling the mind. Do we see that the same with the religious systems, we'll just say?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Because the very religion that they taught you was used to do what? Used to keep you in check. Used to keep you in check. You got to be very careful when you look at this whole dynamic of what's going on right now. Who's at the top? Who's in control? And how do they use that? Oakwood left the GC, did they not? The only school that wasn't getting the money that Andrews and other colleges were getting. It's power and control. They left and went to what? NAD? Now, when you look at what's going on now, I see it. It's total. It's total power and control. Either you're going to do this or this is going to happen. Really? Really? Wow. So where's the Christ in that? I don't see Jesus in that. But because of what we have going on now, I think your president is the first white president. Let that marinate. He's saying things, and now people feel comfortable coming out doing things, even in the church. Even in the church. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? We going to sit back and take it? Or what do you decide you're going to do? I don't know. I'm not saying get off the ship. I'd never say that. But there's other things that can be done. Other things that can be done. You just got to come together and decide what it is you want to do. Yes, it's a major power and control struggle. And so we have to have people that are willing to stand up and say, hey, this just doesn't feel fair. Kind of reminds me of slavery. It's kind of what it reminds me of. So you have to decide what it is you want to do and how you want to move forward.
So would you say that anything that's punitive falls underneath?
How is serving Christ punitive? You don't do this, 100 lashes. That's kind of what it puts me in the mind of. Take you out there to that tree and tie you down. What are we going to do about it? I'm not going to speak a whole lot on that. I'm just saying, what are you going to do? But yeah, I see it. I see the system the same way. The juvenile, we talked about it earlier. That system is still away. It's still, we are still in this. So we got to decide what we want to do. All right. Again, thank you. I enjoyed you. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.